Good afternoon. How are you? Well, Thomas Jefferson has set our temperature at about 84. And we got 8-mile-an-hour winds, although I don't feel them right now, so they won't affect your hearing my voice. And otherwise, the principal thing I'm thinking about, and I'm sure some of you are curious to hear my reaction to President Biden's appearance last night. So I'd like to start with some of the things that have been said today afterwards by Joe Biden. He said, and this is pretty accurate, "I know I'm not a young man." Well, we don't begrudge him his age. And he said, as well, as it's a credit, and I don't discredit this statement, he says, "I know the truth. I know right from wrong." He also said he knows the difference between an honest man and a convicted criminal. And he spoke about getting back up again from age. But age is not something that you can always get back up from. They talk about recovery and so forth. And that's fine, but it's up to a point. And the real question is, if you're 81 years old, are you more frail, more fragile? And the answer is yes. How much so? How vibrant you are? There are variances. I've interviewed 96-year-old farmers for articles I've written for the weekly newspapers. And I did these articles because I was looking for happy stories, if you will, to offset some of the other stuff that I read, that I choose to read, having to do with politics, but the law and other circumstances. But if I have a problem with my organs, or my age, or my mind, or my nervous system, not all of these things, as we get older, allow us to get up. Now, the notion of something comes at you and gets you down, you do what you can. But our capacity to control what happens to us as we move, as I am, in this capsule of thinking meat, well, as my dad said, things fall apart like cars. And so each of us has a span, and it has some variations, but we can't always, quote, come back or get up from whatever it is. And we concede how we exercise and take care of ourselves when we do that. So now let's go backward a little bit. Let's say we're standing in the room, the spin room, where everybody's telling us what they think happened. Both Trump people and Biden people. And one of the more articulate persons was California Governor Gavin Newsom, who many think of as a presidential candidate himself. But he's been very careful not to be considered this year. And he is campaigning for Biden. And he said his question was, well, Biden had a bad night. And he said it could happen to anyone. Everybody has a bad night. And that was his explanation. Obama today said about the same thing, that Biden had a bad night. The question is, he had a bad night, but does it reflect something longer and worse than that? Is it, in other words, just a bad night? Is it a man feeling his age, but otherwise competent to do the job that he seeks to do? Now, what I saw in the first 15 minutes last night is, I'm sure, what your focus was as well, which is that he seemed adrift. I wasn't looking at the TV at first when I heard his voice, not recognizing it. And for a moment, I thought maybe I was listening to RFK Jr., who has a disability affecting how his voice sounds. But then I recognized it was Biden's voice, and it was harsh and hoarse. And then I also noticed, as probably you did, how he was halting in his speech. He seemed to be trying to find his way. And like you, I suspect, who are Biden supporters, your first thought was, oh my God, religious or not. And that was mine. And those 15 minutes were terrible because it seemed that we had no way back from that part of the performance. And so what I ran through my mind was a man who'd been traveling back and forth across the globe. And over the years I've represented pilots and followed these issues and done a fair amount of traveling myself. And I once had an experienced captain tell me that for every time zone you pass, you have to spend a day recuperating. So if you cross 5 time zones, think 5 days, 12 days, and so forth. So, first of all, we had Biden as the traveler at his age. And I don't know what kind of rest he gets. And he had a cold, obviously, of some sort. And you have to wonder why they went forward if he was in that condition. But they did. So, does that account for the wan face he had in some of the shots? He didn't seem able to find the camera to look at it. And these are things that you know when you've done what he's been doing for most of his life. That his experienced aides know about him and that he's done. I've always thought the hardest thing among actors is to show an expression in your face that reflects what you're feeling. But it has to be visible. I once heard one great actress say, they want more faces. I've given them every one of my 50 faces, meaning that they can call up and summon. Now, Biden doesn't have to be a professional actor or actress. Biden has to be authentic in the moment. And he was authentic, looking a little bit lost as his expressions washed across his face. Now, Trump, on the other hand, from time to time, had some truly bizarre appearances. And perhaps it's having observed him so long, they seem to fit the person he is. They seem to be glaring, unfeeling, comic, nasty. So what happened after the first 15 minutes? Well, I say it was approximately 15 minutes. It felt like forever. But what I sensed was Trump was saying things and Biden's Irish came up. And he seemed to be fighting back. But it wasn't the full-throated punch that he had, say, at the State of the Union. Now, when he appeared today at a rally that was scheduled before the debates in North Carolina, I believe, he didn't have to remember his lines. He didn't have to improvise his speech. And because he could read it on teleprompters, and did, apparently. And the people who heard him said, that's the Biden that we know. Now, people had suggested that he take certain drugs or whatever to put on that performance. I don't know that he did that. I don't know if he had a good night's sleep. I don't know if this was him fighting back to show us that he could do it. Now, Trump, I don't want you to think he was magnificent, and I know you don't think that. Trump, when asked a question, would slip the punch. I want to answer this other thing, and that's a device, a rhetorical device that you would think long-time experienced host and hostess on TV would understand. And they didn't follow up. And I would have sat there on a couple of those issues and taken 20 minutes if it took that. Improvise. For example, what did you do on January the 6th? You slept with Stormy Daniels, didn't you? And he ducked that one. I didn't sleep with her. And when I heard that segment repeated on Jon Stewart's show, the entire audience was hysterical at that statement. So Trump, when he said it, couldn't hear it, except probably in the rallies he attends in his memory, they think, hey, he really didn't sleep with her. That's all just a story. Now, CNN also didn't do any fact-checking. So there are a whole number of things about this so-called debate that really don't make sense. And Biden did get in some licks, but I think what it did was it trimmed the effect on Trump, and because of his delivery, our focus was on Biden. Now, Trump also denied saying that soldiers are losers, which I think prompted Biden to be angry because of his son. Now, Trump wore down even as Biden seemed to improve, but not enough to carry the day in the debate, or at least the popular reaction to it. Trump dodged questions about accepting the results of the election. And his campaign has put out that between 11 o'clock and midnight last night, they raised $14 million for the campaign. But hold on. Today, Biden has said that under no circumstances is he withdrawing from the race. There are Democrats that have and may likely push it further. It is a brand of political suicide to choose someone who comes forward not having been vetted by the national press and the negative research of your opponent. And when we've done this in the past, or seen it in the past, we've watched possible elections unravel. But we're going to have to accept Biden's notion that he can get back up, like it's that simple and that difficult. And so we're in for a white-knuckled political ride from here to the election. Now, in history, we have had illness be a factor, a large factor in politics. Woodrow Wilson literally broke his health fighting for the League of Nations that he had fought so hard for as the antidote for the war to end all wars. And his wife Edith, as he got sick, would keep him from the public. And so she became de facto the president, as did his trusted aides. When Reagan was suffering, Pat would supply words to him. Now, some of that is just ordinary age. But Reagan was younger than Trump and Biden. And he managed to get through it, although it was apparent that he had these difficulties. Having worked in the House and the Senate at different times, I have seen older leaders trying to cope and trying to remain in the body, in part because of the seniority that allowed them to do things for their districts, and because of all the hanger-ons that want to hold on to them because they derive political significance and power by being associated with them. So what is my net of the debate last night? Well, I think that Biden should go in and have a full range of tests, including the cognitive test. And those reports should be made public. Is there a precedent for this? Yes, there is. Eisenhower did exactly this. And because there were a lot of questions about the health of his heart. And he won the election because of his openness, and maybe also because the I Like Ike thing carried over from his amazing service as a pivotal point in the World War. So these are the things that we have to look at. And the reason for the medical material is to gather information that we can
see a child on a bike.
Yes, it is.
I'm out here now, you know that?
Yes, I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah. Well, I'm a gravel grinder myself.
Good, appreciate it.
Going out to Kansas City to ride back soon.
Oh, good, good. Enjoy. Nice talking to you.
Always good to see you.
Good to see you. That's what America should be like. That we share things we enjoy, and we have a positive image going forward. And my last observation is that Biden spoke about the future that I care about. Trump did what I said, asking questions of Biden when he finished his remarks. Biden answered some of them well, but others not so well. Trump avoided questions, Biden did not. And Biden made it clear that the soul of the nation for him was equal before the law. And that's why he ran. And that he had no place in his heart or belief or in his notions of America to have a man like Trump who worshiped Nazis, cared not a bit for the citizens of this nation, cared not for the laws or the Constitution. So, grab onto the wheel in front of you. Look at your white knuckles. Hope we get more information about Biden's ability to stay in for the long game. And let's win this election. Because right now the pieces are set. And while it may change any day, this is the choice we have. Trump and Biden. I choose Biden. I recommend we all do that. All the best. Bye-bye.